Throughout this course, I have learned a lot actually that deals with the ISTE standards for teachers. So I'm going to talk about the 5 standards and how different projects have addressed each of the substandards. So for standard 1, facilitate and inspire student learning and creativity, I feel that our lesson plan project best addresses substandard A and D. And substandard A is to promote, support, and model creative and innovative thinking and inventiveness. And substandard D is to model collaborative knowledge construction by engaging in learning with students, colleagues, and others in face-to-face and virtual environments. So the lesson plan addressed this because it allowed us to actually create and fully think through a lesson and how to incorporate technology in it. I think that substandard B, which is engaging students in exploring real-world issues and solving authentic problems using digital tools and resources, was best addressed by mobile learning, the mobile learning project, because this allowed us to look through different lessons that used relevant technology, like a smartphone, which many kids in older grades have or have access to. So there was one, for example, that I did, which was having the students go around their town and try and find relevant historical landmarks, and then they had to take a picture of it, and I thought that was really relevant to substandard B. And then finally, substandard C, which is to promote student reflection using collaboration tools to reveal and clarify students' conceptual understanding and thinking, planning, and creative processes, was best addressed by the Web 2.0 tool project that we did. Now, I found a tool called Class Dojo, which is a behavior management tool which allows students to self-reflect. And there were a lot of tools on this that I found that facilitated learning and supported different thinking and understanding processes, which I found really beneficial. Moving on to standard 2, which is design and develop digital age learning experiences and assessments. Substandard A in standard 2 is to design or adapt relevant learning experiences that incorporate digital tools and resources to promote student learning and creativity. And I think the lesson plan discussion that we did, which is what are factors to consider when creating a technology-based lesson plan, was really helpful in this one. It allowed us to just kind of think through things and what we would have done, like what really are everyday factors that we should be considering as teachers. Substandard B and C were best addressed by the WebQuest, and substandard B is develop technology-enriched learning environments that enable all students to pursue their individual curiosities, to become active participants in setting their own educational goals, managing their own learning, and assessing their own progress. And substandard C is customize and personalize learning activities to address students' diverse learning styles, working strategies, and abilities using digital tools and resources. So again, I think the WebQuest best addressed these 2 standards because this tool allowed us complete freedom to create a learning module for students. So we had to think through things and how students would learn and the different levels of students we would have. So I honestly think that the WebQuest was my favorite assignment that we did. Even though it was challenging, it was really meaningful, and I really had to think about the students. They had to be at the core of my thinking process with that. So for standard 2, substandard D, which was provide students with multiple and varied formative and summative assessments aligned with content and technology standards, and use resulting data to inform learning and teaching. I think the lesson plans again address this because this was all about our freedom to take the reins and to complete a lesson and all aspects that go along with the lesson. So we really had to think about how we wanted to assess our students both formatively and summatively. And then again, we had to think about the abilities of the students. Moving on to standard 3, which was model digital age and learning. For substandard B, which is collaborate with students, peers, parents, and community members using digital tools and resources to support student success and innovation. Again, I think the Web 2.0 tool did that because it expanded our horizons to all the different types of tools and all the different things that we could be using in our classroom, most of these tools did have a communication aspect to them, which we then evaluated for effectiveness, which I found to be really beneficial for us. Substandard C, which is communicative, relevant information and ideas effectively communicate relevant information and ideas effectively to students, parents, and peers using a variety of digital age media and formats. And I think the entire lecture capture module effectively addressed this substandard because it gave us 3 different ways that we could communicate things. Specifically, the screencast and the audiocast, they were 2 different ways to address the different learners we could have in our classroom. We could have visual learners and we could have auditory learners. And I think that the lecture capture module did this for us. And then substandard D, which is model and facilitate effective use of current and emerging digital tools to locate, analyze, evaluate, and use information resources to support research and learning. I think that the screencast did the best job of addressing this standard because it allowed us to demonstrate a skill over the computer, which students would then be able to use as a reference when completing homework or other assignments online. Moving on to Standard 4, which is promote and model digital citizenship and responsibility. I think the internet discussion that we did addressed Substandard A and C, and Substandard A is advocate, model, and teach safe, legal, and ethical use of digital information and technology, and Substandard C is to promote and model digital etiquette and responsible social interactions related to the use of technology and information. So the internet discussion was the prompt of how would you handle a situation in which a student has been accessing inappropriate sites? What are some strategies that you can use to prevent this type of off-task behavior? I think that this prompt allowed us to really think through a scenario that's very likely and very possible to occur in our classrooms when using the internet. So it allowed us to think through this whole process and address what we would do and how we would teach, model, and enforce the appropriate use of technology. I think Substandard B, which is address the diverse needs of all learners by using learner-centered strategies, providing equitable access to appropriate digital tools and resources, was best addressed by the interactive learning project that we did. I think that this project allowed us to create a presentation that kept the students at the center of everything, and it was engaging all the while still teaching them. And finally, for Standard 4, Substandard D, which is develop and model cultural understanding and global awareness by engaging with colleagues and students of other cultures using digital age communication and collaboration tools. I think, again, the Web 2.0 tools, more specifically the Class Dojo that I found, was very effective in addressing this. I think the Class Dojo was effective in this sense because it had the ability for teachers to instant message parents, and it also had a translator built into it, so that helped to break down any language barrier that there could possibly be. And then finally, Standard 5, which is engage in professional growth and leadership. Substandard A in this is participate in local and global learning communities to explore creative applications of technology to improve student learning. And I think that this was best addressed by discussions, which allowed us to converse with our peers and get their feedback, as well as hear their own perspectives on different scenarios. Substandard B in Standard 5 is exhibit leadership by demonstrating a vision of technology infusion, participating in shared decision-making and community building, and developing the leadership and technology skills of others. And I think this was best addressed by the lesson plans that we did because it allowed us creativity with incorporating technology into a given lesson. And then finally, Substandard C, which is evaluate and reflect on current research and professional practice on a regular basis to make effective use of existing and emerging digital tools and resources to support student learning. I think the Web 2.0 tools did this because technology is ever changing, and we were asked to evaluate different tools that are current in today's day and age. And it allowed us to form an opinion on their effectiveness and usefulness in the classroom and whether or not we would actually utilize them. So overall, I learned a lot from this class, and I learned how to incorporate many different tools in the classroom because technology is such a huge part of the world today. And really, it's inevitable that it's going to come into the classroom. So I think that giving us the opportunity to learn about different tools and how to utilize different tools and make the most of it was really important. So I really appreciate everything that I've learned, and I know I will definitely take it with me into my own classroom.